Hello out there. This is Doc, aka the Gunatic Fringe, aka Taruye no, aka Genki Horoguchi Main, aka your host of the evening. And today, I'm talking with a guy. You probably heard his name on a couple podcasts that you listen to, and he's someone that I've been talking back and forth with, someone that I've been needling a little bit, and someone that I think has an interesting perspective on this pro wrestling thing. I'm here with the King of the North. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. I'm happy to be here.
All right. And we were talking for a bit, and I just wanted to say thank you for coming on with me. Thank you for being here. And I always start this off with my first question of how'd you get into this? Why'd you start watching wrestling?
Well, I started watching wrestling specifically because of friends that I went to school with. I grew up in a home that didn't have cable or anything like that, so I didn't really start watching wrestling till I was maybe 13, 14 years old. Um, and yeah, I kind of learned stuff through friends of mine, WWE stuff, of course, and
Yeah.
I just started watching it here and there with them, and it's pretty cool. Specifically, where I started to start enjoying wrestling more and more, because I started getting on the wrestling kick. My dad took me on a trip to Toronto, Ontario.
Oh.
This was back in 2012. And I made sure to get the exact date. It was May the 12th of 2012. And we went to Ring of Honor Border Wars 2012. And that was at the Ted Reeve Community Arena. And the show was headlined by Kevin Steen and Davey Richards for the world title.
Wow, that puts me in a that puts me back. That takes me back, man. So what was it about the wrestling that kept you into the wrestling?
And I went into that show, I had no idea who hardly any of these people were. Um, I knew of like Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas, who were on the show. I knew of a couple of the other guys that were there, like Lance Storm. I knew of because of just conversations uh, here and there, and like Rhino. I knew of Rhino, so like the more known guys. But besides that, like I was exposed to a whole new group of people. Like Roderick Strong was a champion there. The Briscoes were the tag team champions at that time. So, and just Davey Richards. Davey Richards came in as the champion, and Kevin Steen was the not the hometown hero, but the home country hero. Uh, and yeah, I thought it was an incredible time, and it just launched me into a whole different atmosphere of fan.
So we're talking Ring of Honor and WWE, but I hear you a lot on like podcasts that cover stuff like Japanese pro wrestling. And a lot of the time for Japanese pro wrestling or people to get into it, there's a barrier there. And like my question to you is like when you saw your first Japanese show, what was there something about it that just sparked something inside you?
Yeah, man, it was I the name of the Wrestle Kingdom, or the number that the Wrestle Kingdom was escapes my mind. But I watched a Wrestle Kingdom with a friend of mine. I was staying over at his place, and I was watching the show. Again, the year I think it was 2015. The year I started Japanese wrestling.
Great.
And the main event was Tanahashi and Okada, of course,
Yeah.
which was a great launching point. That same show was Nakamura versus Kota Ibushi. Um, Goto and Shibata won the tag titles. I think it was Kenny Omega against Taguchi or something like that.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of cool stuff. Like Togi Makabe and Tomohiro Ishii became some of my favorites early on too,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
they
I
had
remember
a
that match. They were
whole.
tearing into each other with the lariats. That King Kong knee drop to the back of the head. Ooh.
I just couldn't believe the stuff I was watching.
I remember Jim Ross was actually audibly. I know this show was known for fucking Matt Striker saying I'm marking out, bro, but you could hear Jim Ross marking out for Ishii and Makabe tearing into each other.
And they opened a show and it was a junior heavyweight four-way match.
Yeah.
And I was immediately hooked on because the Ring of Honor show that I went to, the Young Bucks were actually on the undercard in a
Ah.
six-man tag. They were facing they're facing Kenny King and Rhett Titus and
Oh my
T.J.
god.
Perkins,
Ah man.
and their
Red
tag partner
Titus.
was Mike Mondo.
Mike Mondo. He was still working
Mike
then?
Mondo. Yep,
Wow. Okay, that's
Mike
crazy.
Mondo and the Young Bucks.
From
So
so
I saw the Young Bucks in that opener, and I was like, okay, I recognize these guys. And then I was totally blown away by the other stuff that I'd seen, like the Red Dragon guys, the Forever Hooligans. Like
yeah.
Rocky Romero's been arm in arm with my Japanese wrestling fandom since the start,
Yeah, I mean that dude's
and
been
he's
there
still in there.
since he's been there since 2002. And I think he's only 43 or something. So he started real young. I think him and Nakajima were two of the youngest guys to have a dome match. I I personally think that when we talk about the Japanese style of wrestling, there a lot of especially in the tens, people have this view of it the New Japan style where it's this kind of glitz and glamour, this great production value, guys like Tanahashi and Okada fighting for 40 35 minutes and throwing everything at each other. And there's something about that era of wrestling that's just you know it harkens back to a primal instinct in people. And we were talking about a card that was about, I think it was about 11 years ago. And you know we see the evolution of all those people on the card back then to now. And we were talking how you're into Pokemon. So when you see someone say 2013 Okada compared to 2020 Okada or 2019 Okada, to see that full growth from chubby weird hair red haired guy into the Rainmaker, it's cool to see that kind of evolution.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. It's crazy how, and it's not just Okada, but just looking at Young Lions specifically, and that's what I love the most out of Japanese wrestling or New Japan in that
The journey,
is
right?
watching the Young Lions go from black trunks to progressing through,
Hey, you
like
know
watching Yoda Tsuji go from Young Lion black trunks to where he's at now, or
yeah.
um,
and
all
i
that stuff, right?
and I have this opinion that none of them should have ever lost to Chase Owens. That guy's a freaking bum. Yeah, but you see that you see Suji go from happy go lucky. You see these guys go from a shaved head, just smiling, running down to the ring, and then you see the evolution to what Suji is, or you see what David Finlay became. Personally, I'm a big fan of David Finlay because I like how he went from just okay, here's this guy, he's probably earmarked to go to NXT, whatever, but he grew from young boy to being even though it's because of all these people leaving, he's the top heel guy gaijin in New Japan. And having that journey of seeing the person from when they started to where they go, it's one of like the, how can I say it is one of the most fulfilling thing to see. Like we just saw this week, so we saw Mayu. Actually, she announced her departure from Stardom, and to see her go from where she first started, where she's like like a baby deer on ice, and she evolved into one of the most decorated, supremely talented pro wrestlers out there right now. Seeing that journey and seeing them go build up over time, build up the EXP, gaining, like these new moves and learning new moves and like things getting more and more effective as they go on. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see your
That's,
vision for sure.
and like seeing that evolution. I think like people, when it comes to pro wrestling, there's a lot of ways to watch it. Some people just they watch a match, they'll like hear about a card, all these good matches, and like it's cool. You can watch a match. Great wrestlers can have a match and tell you all they need to know. But when you become a fan of this stuff and you find someone at the ground floor, and let's say like for me, so I started at the ground floor with Goto, right? He was just a young boy, whatever. He get his butt kicked. Him and Yoshitatsu were in the same class. Eventually, he comes over for TNA, does like the World X Cup, whatever. Goes back, wins G1, wins the New Japan Cup, and then he becomes the ultimate loser. What was it like? 8 challenges for the IWGP belt and 8 losses, or something like that. And
Yeah, yeah, something like for sure.
it's just like how to see him go from that, and then for the last 10 years he's been a loser basically. I mean, he had that tag team Bishamon, but for the most part he's been like a loser for the. And then it just so happens he gets this chance to, because somebody got sick, and he gets to go to the finals of the New Japan Cup, and this gives them something to build on, and then you see it evolve as you follow him to the next year. He's on the pre-show for Wrestle Kingdom, and then the Rambo, and all of a sudden that becomes a whole rally cry for him. It's, for lack of a better word, it's kind of like he had his Kofi Mania moment, and seeing him actually become the champion and become a draw, it's actually it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat to see like that evolution, and like it keeps going, like because like you think like it doesn't stop just when the person wins a title. You're following them from the beginning to the end. And the thing about pro wrestling is you keep following these people to the end, like whether that be how Tam Nakano like retired this week, or like how Muto had his final bye bye. It's fun. It's cool to like join them at whatever stop you're at, and to see them go from beginning to end.
Yeah, you're so right, man. And you brought up the Muto final bye bye. Like that's the peak of it for me. I don't I don't know how much better you can get on a send off for that guy than than that.
Yeah, he uh,
Absolutely.
he even got to he worked with the biggest draw in Japan. The biggest draw. It's not Okada. The biggest Japanese star of the last decade is not Kazuchika Okada. It's not Hiroshi Tanahashi. It is Tetsuya Naito, and that is the reason that Muto chose to work his last match with him. And of course, the little epilogue part where he gets to give Chono's retirement match. I know people like kind of like skip over that, but like to me as a longtime follower of Chono from WCW to his retirement where he didn't really retire, and to see him get like that little spot and hear his theme song again, that was pretty sweet. And yeah, man. So like when you think about pro wrestling, what are some of your favorite moments.
There's a lot.
Okay.
Um, I know because like the Wrestle Kingdom experience I told you about was we didn't watch that show live. We
Mm,
watched it on like a delay.
okay.
Um, so we weren't up at like 3 o'clock in the morning watching New Japan at that time.
Uh,
Um, but the first show that I legitimately stayed up all night and all day to watch was the show that Kenny Omega won the IWGP title at.
okay.
In the 2 out of 3 falls. I stayed up the entire show. I watched uh, the entire show, and I just celebrated. I couldn't believe how excited I was to watch that and being up that late.
Yeah.
Um, and just how invested I really was, right? So that was one of those moments that I remember at that's a very top moment of my fandom, is seeing
That's
that.
and you know what? Also, to bring it back to evolution, you know, like to see him evolve from a junior heavyweight to a heavyweight, and not just a heavyweight, the heavyweight champion. That's like going from that's going from a macho to a machamp, and that's something like that's it's really fun to see, you know, and just seeing
Pretty
like
much, yeah.
yeah, dude, because when we talk about stuff, a lot of American pro wrestling is tied to character growth, and people kind of like underrate how that's done like in New Japan. There is always character growth in New Japan because Kenny went from a goofball cruiserweight guy who did like arm chainsaw things and like brought his broom with him to the ring to somebody that could go out there and kill you with a knee, hit you with a one-winged angel, and like be taken seriously as an actual threat. And that seeing that evolution from joke to like actual this guy's something is pretty cool. You you mentioned before like you're not much of a comic books guy, but you did watch X-Men '97, right?
Yeah, yeah. I watched some of that for sure.
So
Um,
did you see spoilers? Did you see what happened with the whole Gambit thing?
yes,
Okay,
yeah,
so in X-Men '97, Gambit, Moshe, he about to make a name for himself right here. He goes ahead and he saves like Genosha by taking out like Master Mold Sentinel. I know like some people don't know about this. Sentinels are robots made to kill mutants, whatever, whatever. But the thing is, if you watch X Men, Gambit usually for the most of the time, he's aloof. He's doing his own thing. He loves to charm the women. He likes to do all this stuff. So a lot of the times when I was a kid, he like came off as like one of the cool characters because he's kind of like Naito, where he doesn't care, but he really does care. And then he gets to the point where he they're fighting all these sentinels. So Yamik actually gets a hold of him, and the sentinel grabs a hold of Gambit, and in this moment, Gambit is able to explode the sentinel and save the island and save all the rest of the mutants because he's making a choice for himself, for finally he's not selfish, he's not thinking about himself, he's thinking about everybody else. And that's what we call character growth. And when you see stuff like that, so there's you see stuff like that in different kinds of media, because to me when you watch wrestling, if you're a wrestling fan, everything you watch becomes wrestling, whether that be Breaking Bad or The Sopranos or Daredevil or anything like that. It all just becomes pro wrestling because you see like stuff like heel turns, face turns. You see what we're doing with the Avengers, they're bringing out like all the old stars. You see nostalgia, and do you have a comment on that? Like how when you watch wrestling, everything becomes wrestling.
Yeah, yeah, you're totally right. Um, there's there's so many examples. There's so many different forms of media that you can run back right into wrestling. I think you totally nailed it, and I'm in total agreement with you that there's so much
Crossover.
like I can't yeah there's so much crossover. There's so much stuff you can attribute to like in wrestling to other media and stuff. I'm totally with you there.
Yeah, man. It's real interesting because like I'm kind of like I'm a nerd. I'm a movie nerd. I'm I'm a comic book nerd. I like watching all kinds of cartoons that are Japanese, Chinese, American, Spanish. I'll watch so many stuff and I'll consume everything. But every time I consume something, it's always like I did digested or like translated through the form of pro wrestling. Oh, this guy's the ace. This guy's the baby face. These guys are the heels. Okay, so the heels have this faction, and then the and like that's just funny to me. Like, cause like we bring up the X Men, like Magneto's the big bads, Professor X is the good guy, and all this stuff, and you're just like, oh man, no matter what I watch, it's all ruined to me because everything's become pro wrestling. And
Yeah,
I mean ruined, but because like when it comes to being a wrestling fan, a lot of people are embarrassed. Either they're embarrassed or they don't think anybody else likes it. So my other question to you is: are you an in the closet wrestling fan or are you out of the closet?
yeah. I think everybody in my friends circle, everybody in my family knows I'm a wrestling fan. Um, yeah, I became a wrestling fan because of my dad.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and like I mentioned it, and I post about it on my social media sometimes. But I've got a friend that I've made in the office that I work in, and he is a lapsed fan,
Okay.
and sometimes we just catch up on some wrestling in the modern time, and he tells me to throw on some wrestling. I throw on Japanese wrestling, or I'll throw on a CMLL show, or I'll throw something on, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm kind of helping bring some lapsed fans back in a sense, but yeah, like even my coworkers know I'm a wrestling fan, and they know I'm a fan of certain wrestlers and stuff like that. So
Yeah. When
and I'm happy about that too.
yeah.
I'm happy that people know that I'm a wrestling fan because they see the popularity and stuff. They see the advertisements specifically for where I'm at. They air AEW on TSN. So
Mhm.
whenever they're tuning into TSN for something, they see the AEW ads and they're like, "Oh, I see the AEW ads and all that stuff." So
Yeah. I feel oftentimes people kind of laud and group Labs fans as not being fans. But I'm a big fan of the podcast, The Labs Fan. Shout out to JP and Jack. Can't wait to talk to you guys again. And like, it's, I feel like when you get into this, even if you fall out, you remember things about it that made you happy. Cause, and that's why we see things like nostalgia booking because it brings people back to when they were when they first became fans, and a time when it brings them like to a happier time. And I feel like oftentimes lapsed fans are just disregarded as in a group of fans. But I consider them like no matter what, even if they stopped watching, they still ended up watching anyway, and there was something about it that reached them. And it's been like my mission goal with this podcast to say like to like show like someone from Canada or someone from Mexico or someone from Portugal or someone from Australia, even though like we're not speaking the same language or we're not watching the same shows, we are still consuming this pro wrestling, and it's what connects us. So like someone that fell out of the fandom, like a lapsed fan, like your coworker, when they see something like, I don't know, like some like women's wrestling, like, and they see like moves being done, it kind of like jogs their memories, and like, oh, that puts me back for when I was a happier time or a simpler time for them. And it's always been like something fun for me to like find out, because was it a couple months back I found out that my cousin-in-law, we never talked about wrestling, but I just happened to have like I think AEW on at the time. He's like, and like it was like the week after the Royal Rumble, so he's like, "Oh, you watch wrestling?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, do you watch wrestling?" He's like, "I used to." And his big thing was he was into the new generation era of pro wrestling. Nothing before it, just the new generation era. And then once it got to Attitude Era, he fell off. But like, I think he saw like, cause his guy, he told me his guy was Goldust. So I think like on the show, like he saw Dustin show up and it popped it. And like it opened up,
Oh,
it opens up when they see like when something reminds them of something right there, it opens up a floodgate of memories, and then we just ended up talking. And like I think that part about it is cool because like you connect on like some sort of base level with other fans. And I know like a problem, not a problem, but something that's like prevalent in our community is sometimes there's wrestling fans who feel like they're isolated or they're alone because like they can't talk to anybody around them with it. So finding community, even if it's online or something, it really helps to not just strengthen your fandom, but like strengthen bonds with people who also share your same kind of fandom. And it doesn't matter if you're a WWE fan, a New Japan fan, a Marvelous fan, a Diana fan, or someone that just kind of watches soft ground wrestling on Twitter. There's something about this that kind of connects us, and you could share a laugh about it with someone. And I think like what you're saying about like the popularity of wrestling. I know like ratings aren't like whatever, but when you say pro wrestling to somebody, at least maybe like 5 out of 7 people will get it, or sometimes 2 out of 7 people will get it. But those 2 people that you talk to about it, you'll have like you'll have like a small little icebreaker with each other, and you can make a connection. And like that's the goal of my show, is making connections.
absolutely.
the the most powerful thing about say like, because you're known for posting on stuff and like commenting, like because I would listen to like Flagship or Mike and JD or One Nation Radio, and like your name pops up all the time. So like, how did you get into the internet space for pro wrestling? Did you just like Google
Um,
it, or?
I kind of just think I fell into it, just using social media and looking stuff up. Um, Mainly, I was looking stuff up for Japanese wrestling specifically. Because I really didn't know what time the show started, or I didn't know what time to really start working a schedule around to get to Wrestle Kingdom or something like that to watch it. So that's where I kind of fell into it, and I don't
Okay.
really have a specific account that I started at, but I just kind of got into it there, and that's about it.
Yeah, man. That's kind of it's interesting because I remember when I was young, I was like well going on AOL, and I just typed in wrestling, and then you find like these chat groups, and then it goes on from there. I think you might be way younger than me because I'm 40. So when I got into it, there was like all these forums and all these boards and then all this stuff. So did you see yourself like jumping in with like Reddit or?
No, I don't even have a Reddit account really.
Wow.
I think like the odd one maybe like when you Google something like uh Wrestle Kingdom start time and there's a Reddit thread that'll pop up, I'd maybe click on that for the
Mm.
desktop version. But yeah, I don't really have that. Yeah, I'm 28, so I don't really, not to say that I wouldn't have been on the boards or whatever, but yeah, I was raised in a by my dad and my mom and stuff. I didn't really have internet when
Oh,
I
okay.
was younger like that. I really got internet and cable when I was a bit older. So, um, I was, not to sound like an old man or anything like that, but I was really go outside and be outside until it got dark and then whatever, right? So
Well, that's good to hear, man. Because you know the trappings of online fandom is you kind of get stuck in a rut, or you get stuck like in a place where all people do is complain about what they're watching, and it kind of gets it kind of gets annoying. Certain places, certain voices of wrestling, but it's just like you know it's good to not be stuck in an online echo chamber or be stuck on there because like yeah sometimes if you find yourself in a place where people are agreeing with everything you say it kind of puts you like in a rut as a fan. And I know we've been talking and you like have a very taste in pro wrestling when it's Ring of Honor, New Japan, and Joshi. I know you're a big fan of the Sendai Girls Meiko Satomura send off show.
yes, yes, I had a great time watching that.
Yeah. And what was it about that show that really sparked something in you?
It's just different, man. It's just something different that I'm not quite used to. I'm always trying to expand my viewing of stuff.
Yeah.
Something new to see, someone new to see. Um, like before the past year or so, I didn't know who Mika Iwata was, or
Oh, she's
I didn't
beautiful.
watch a bunch of Kumi Oroha. Like I didn't watch a bunch of her work. But now that I've been exposed to these wrestlers, and now I understand how great they are and how special they are to their, I wouldn't say it's a subsection, but like they're not Stardom wrestlers, they're not TJPW wrestlers, they're
They're
not,
Sendai girls.
they have their Sendai Girls section that I just wasn't exposed to before.
Yeah.
Um,
You
I was
got
exposed to Hashimoto, right? But
yeah.
like those that little lane they're in, right?
Yeah. It's good to see that there's actually a lot of cross promotional stuff between Sendai and Stardom. And I really there's something about the style of Sendai Girls where it's just a raw, rough style, and it just speaks to me like something about Iwata because Iwata she looks like a calendar model, right? She looks like someone you would see like in magazines and stuff, but she's out there choking people, headbutting, kicking people in the face as hard as she can, all while looking beautiful. And I but it's like different than how like say like a Sayuri would be doing because there's some like when it comes to like Iwata, Iroha, and like especially Dash, there's like a little bit of sadisticness to what they do that you don't see in other wrestlers, and maybe that has to do with the training from Mako.
That's got to be like that's it's amazing. Her like I sometimes just go on Cage Match and I look at prominent wrestlers' names and I try and see who they've trained because there's a whole tab for it, right?
Yeah,
They call it an entourage tab or something like that of just wrestlers they've trained.
yeah.
And my God, man, like the murder's row of people that Mako Satomura has helped train is ridiculous.
And it even goes into like the WWE wrestlers she's trained. Like she trained the when WWE would send like their developmental people to Sendai Girls under like they wouldn't announce it, but they send it there. So like Mercedes would actually go out there and work out with them. They sent out I think they I'm not they sent out. a lot of girls during the 2020 pandemic. That's why you see like someone like Tiffany Stratton come out and be like phenomenal. It's like uh, it's a whole thing, and I love that crossbreeding and wrestling. And again, it brings it all into evolution. And man, I got a question for you, man. Just to take us out of this wrestling stuff. Who's your favorite Pokemon?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a list for sure. But
Top three.
I was I was playing Pokemon from when I was a kid all the way till now.
Yeah,
And I always thought Sandslash was really cool.
Sandslash is cool. Saiyan I also loved that cartoon when I was a kid, man.
And then they came out with a different Sandslash, like he was an ice type or whatever, and I can't remember what year it was now. But I thought that was so cool too, because it's like I didn't think anybody cared about Sandslash, and then they made a whole different form of it. So yeah, that's my
Sand,
favorite Pokemon ever.
Sandslash. That's cool, man. You know, they have this theory on Pokemon. Did you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this theory that Pokemon is based off of all Japan, right? So the four pillars are represented in the Pokemon. You got Masawa is of course Bulbasaur. You got I think Kawada was Charmander, and then what was it? Squirtle was I think Squirtle was Kawada and Pikachu was Kobashi, but you know, all around there, right? Different Pokemon,
Yeah.
different represent the four pillars. And so like different leagues represent like the different like tournaments that have like champion carnival and stuff. So like they were saying like the guys who did Pokemon were just big All Japan fans, and I just find that funny.
I can buy that for sure.
Yeah. Well, you know, like actually Masawa. I know you're younger than me, so you're 28. So Masawa probably died before you even got into this. But Masawa was actually a big gamer, big into like I think he was like into Advanced Wars and you know like all that stuff. So it's just funny to see. A lot of wrestlers actually into video games, like, and I think like even Kana was a video game. She was making video games or something. But I digress. I usually like to end these like how love to end my dinners with dessert. So can you tell me what your favorite dessert is?
Okay, so I've got two. So my great aunt, she's passed away now, but I have a recipe to make her lemon meringue pie. Specifically her recipe. I don't get lemon meringue pie anywhere else except for that one. And then my aunt on my dad's side makes a cake dish. And I don't know if you guys have it in the States or anything like that, but we have a chocolate bar here called Score,
Mm.
Skor, and
Okay.
she'll get Score bars and she'll crush them up in like the different layers and stuff like that of the cake. Those are my two favorites. They're
That
specifically ones that my family members make, but those
hey,
are my two go-tos, and I have both recipes, so I make
that's
them
that good.
myself too.
Hey man, you know, there's nothing like a homemade dessert. You know, you get it on, you make it yourself or your aunt makes it for you. And like that there's not only like the feeling of eating the actual food, but there's also like the memories attached for it. Because I'm sure like your aunt who passed away, whenever you try her lemon meringue, you just like kind of say thank you, aunt, and you just like, you know, thanks, auntie. I never would have experienced this without you. And like it's it's damn. Now I'm gonna go ahead and try to give myself diabetes by engorging myself and buying Score bars. It's been a real pleasure to have you on, man. Hopefully, I can get you on for one of my roundtables. But is there anywhere you want people to find your stuff?
No, man, I just have my Twitter account that I post on.
Okay.
I do my thing. I'm always happy to chat with anybody if they wanted to, if they wanna chat, if they wanna share their opinions, anything like that. You'll see me around somewhere, and I'm happy to share the space with people like you, Doc, and people that I interact with on a daily basis or weekly basis.
Yeah,
It's really good, and I had a great time here today.
yeah. It's really nice to be able to to meet people and talk to people about what I love. And it might not seem like it sometimes. I might not like what's going on in America right now, whether that be, you know, in politics, because wrestling used to be my escape from politics, but now what happened? So
Yeah, it's right back, eh?
yeah, it's just right back in my face. And so it's just like, I really do love pro wrestling. I really love like the art of it. I love like these things that we see, like these connections that we make with each other as fans, these the evolutions of these pro wrestlers, or seeing them go from like a baby to like a full fledged like main eventer. And man, this is that journey of discovery. It's a journey. I find like being a wrestling fan is like being on a journey of self discovery and finding stuff that you like. And like you might have started somewhere. Like a lot of people start like, you know, they leave their first home gym with like their first little bit of thing. Like, you know, everybody starts off like whatever. They don't always go to the Johto League. They just, you know, they'll start off with WWE, and who knows where that branches off. But it's always, to me, it's a wonderful story to follow where you started and where you're going, and it never stops. And I want to thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure, and I just want to say thank you for being able to talk with me today, man. I really do appreciate it, and yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, man. And I'll be back to any Doc listeners. I'll be back.
Yeah, man.